Cup of Joe with Grandpa Des. Hey, Big Marv, how you doing?
Good, sir. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing excellent. So glad to finally have you on. So for those that don't know, I met Marv at it was UFC on Fox, right?
Yeah.
Lawler Dos Anjos in Winnipeg. We
Yes,
were
sir.
both credited media members, and we kind of talked in catering backstage. And you said, "Hey, I host a local show. I'd love to have you on sometime." And rest is history. I think I was on your show a bunch of times, like in studio, maybe 3 times.
Yeah, back when they used to let us do the live studio show,
Yeah,
I think you were my one of my regulars because
yeah.
they took away my producer. I used to kind of co-host the show with him,
Hmm.
and he left us at TSN to become the voice of the Humboldt Broncos,
Oh, wow,
which is I believe Rory's still doing that right now.
that's
So.
awesome.
What was good about him is he was the one producer slash op at TSN that actually watched fighting and was into
Okay.
UFC and stuff. So everyone else that worked there didn't didn't watch. So it came up to me because when the show launched, I had like two other co-hosts
Yeah.
that were just a bunch of buddies talking about fighting
Well,
and
and
whatever.
you would, you try to tie in wrestling and stuff
Yeah,
because you're a wrestling fan. And I know when I was in, the young guy that you had producing, he was a wrestling fan, and I think it seemed like he watched a little bit of MMA, but he wasn't like a super huge fan.
yeah. That what's fun? A funny story about that kid that he was a huge wrestling fan,
Yeah.
and one of Kenny Omega's best friends in town, Jason Geiger, was going to be my co-host, and it just so happened that it was the same weekend Kenny Omega was in town, and
Okay.
they said, "Yeah, sure, I'll come do the show with you."
Oh, no way.
But that morning, Kenny realized that his plane left super early, and the show started at 9,
Yeah.
so like he couldn't come do the show, and Jason told me that, yeah, he was ready to do the show, but his flight left. So I would have just walked in here with him, and
Oh, wow. That
we
would
were
have been
telling
cool.
our op that. So I'm like, hey, Chris, what do you think? What do you think have happened if I walked in here and right behind me was Kenny Omega?
And
He was like,
this would
I
be
would have lost my.
this would have been like right when he was like kind of at the height, like when he was feuding with Okada, like
Yeah,
2016, 2017. Yeah.
yeah. It
Like
was right around the time where he was about to become a free agent, and people
oh,
were like, "Are you going to WWE? Are you going? Where are you
oh,
going?"
so 2018 maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Actually, now that I think about it, I want this sounds familiar. So you may have mentioned it or something, because one of the times you had me on, it was right when the rumors of AEW were starting, and that I know Dave Meltzer, and you're kind of hit me for information, like what do you know, and and I didn't really know anything that you didn't already know, but I can kind of pretend like I do. Um,
That
so
was my
yeah,
whole show, man.
yeah, I know. But yeah, you had James Lynch
Yeah.
would be co-host with you, Nick Baldwin. Both those guys are doing like pretty big things now in
Heck yeah.
MMA. Nick's with the Score. James Lynch is kind of a freelancer, but he does like a ton of different
James Lynch is
things.
one of those guys. He doesn't like. I know he was with the Score before, and he was with
Yeah,
Sportsnet, but he's one of those dudes that doesn't need. He doesn't.
yeah,
They these sports broadcasters would need him more than
yeah.
he would need them. He's almost more successful as a freelance. I'll,
Well,
I'll come
like
do
an
this. I'll
Ariel,
come do that.
like Ariel, like
Yeah.
that sort of guy. I mean, and even me, like I'm not like I have a day job and everything, but I mean, I'm doing, I'm writing for the Observer still, and I got this gig at Fight Game Media where I write and podcast, and so I do a regular MMA show, a regular wrestling show covering Dynamite, which is really cool, and yeah,
Yeah.
and
No,
then
it's great.
this thing is just for fun, this is basically me catching up with buddies. I figured that out about 5 episodes in. It's like I don't even care if anybody watches. I just want to have a conversation with people I haven't talked to in a while, and if people watch it and like it, hey, all the better.
Yeah. No,
So
I mean,
that's
that's honestly what makes these things more fun.
oh
And
yeah,
I love doing my show,
yeah,
but I wasn't under the pressure that some of the regular hosts were, right?
Yeah.
I got the show because nobody, like, MMA is huge, but none of the other
Yeah.
guys really wanted to talk about MMA. So I said, I'll come in on a Sunday, I'll talk about the show, and I'll
Yeah.
make it my own.
And you weren't even really hired to be an on-air talent, right?
No, man, I still work there. That's the thing. When they got rid of TSN, um, it was sad and it was heartbreaking. But me personally, in a professional level, I just kept going on and on. My bread and butter is advertising. So uh, even when I was at Hot 103, I was doing weekends on Hot 103, which was always, it was fun to get on the air and stuff and talk about how much I like Lady Gaga and whatever, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. It was fun to do an on-air gig, but my bread and butter was advertising, and
Yeah.
that's still what I do for the station.
So
The
you
cluster
got
of
to
stations, that's
you're
still what
one
I
of the
do
lucky
now.
few that got to
That's
stay.
still what I do when I'm working at home.
Yeah. So you're one of the lucky few that got to stay.
Was that?
You're one of the lucky few that got to stay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I am.
I was just looking, and it's almost exactly a year ago that the station stopped being a sports station, right?
Yeah,
February 9th.
it was February 9th.
Yeah. My
It came up
anniversary.
in my
My
memories
30th
and stuff.
anniversary, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And I lost my only sports station. I guess CGOB is kind of a half-ass sports station now, but
Yeah, I mean, you can get some stuff there. I was
yeah.
very happy to see some of my former TSN friends end up there. So,
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
like I'm
I'll be
glad.
honest,
I'm
like
glad there's another outlet.
I barely listen to the radio anymore because like podcasts now and music and whatever. But if I listen to the radio, I mean, it was always TSN. Like I put like actually when I get in my car, like the Bluetooth isn't hooked up yet, so the first thing I would hear is TSN. And now when TSN got canceled, I ended up getting satellite radio because I like to have like I like to hear a little bit of what's going on in the world before I sink myself into like pro wrestling and MMA and whatever else. It's like, oh, there's a war going on. Oh, I didn't know. Brian
Yeah,
Cage just you watch AEW?
I do watch AEW
Okay,
actually. Yeah, I watch it every week.
I just my phone was going nuts there, so I don't know if you saw me checking it, but
Yeah.
apparently AEW re-signed Brian Cage,
Oh, did they
which
really?
nobody thought was going to happen, right? Like
No, I
everyone,
thought he was gonna head
yeah,
over to that control your narrative,
yeah, yeah. No,
mega type wrestling.
he got signed, and so the issue apparently was that he wasn't vaccinated and he didn't want to get vaccinated, so that's why they weren't using him. But now it's not as big of a deal because they're getting rid of the vaccine mandates anyways. So,
Yeah.
I guess like Kyrie Irving, he can get. So yeah, I mean, we got a little news. You guys use Slack chat at TSN at all? You know what Slack chat is?
Maybe.
Oh,
Like I
okay.
said, I was
It's
in TSN for Sunday mornings and
oh
all the other equipment and stuff.
no for your job. It's just like an app, and we share like news and stuff. So
Oh yeah.
and people story ideas and whatever, like so and site stuff. So anyways, my thing was just blowing up. So I was like, oh man,
Oh,
somebody
we had
died or
we had
somebody's.
like a email thing from
Oh, okay.
Aaron Bronstetter.
Yeah.
Yeah, Aaron would send out like everybody who covered MMA.
Okay.
He would send news out. So I actually still, God bless the guy. He didn't take me off the email, so I still get the news.
Oh, nice.
Before
So you get the scoops.
anyone else does.
Yeah, so it's like, oh yeah, Covington and Masvidal signed to fight, and then the world finds out next Monday, but you found out today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we have like 4 different what they call channels. One of them is like general. So I mean, this is just basically stuff you could find on Twitter, and somebody in the group will post it, and it's like, okay, whatever. So I didn't have to go to Twitter to find out, but it's there. Then we have another one that's news. That one's a little more inside. Then we have another one that's, for the radio host. That one is more. And then we have one called hashtag keep it on the hush. Now, this is stuff that nobody's supposed to know about. And so if I got something on that, I wouldn't even tell you on the air. Like this is people that know people and, whatever. So, like I'll find out, oh yeah, this guy's leaving, but nobody knows yet. This guy's debuting, but we're not supposed to tell anybody. And yeah, Joe Rogan
Paul, let
is
me ask you something
off the pay-per-view, Yeah, go ahead.
Because if it's on the hush,
Yeah,
Is it just me, or does it seem like before Dynamite every week, Tony Khan says, "I've got
Oh,
something big coming up,"
well,
and
wasn't there supposed
then
to be something last night?
yeah, was it Buddy Murphy?
Well, that's what everyone's asking, and no, it wasn't. I mean, there is something coming, but it may not be a talent. It's supposed to be some sort of a business deal,
All right.
because okay, so I'm friends with Dave, and
Yeah.
I'm really good friends with Garrett Gonzalez, who co-hosts the Observer Radio once a week with Dave. So they were supposed to interview Tony Khan last week for the show, and Tony had to cancel. And the reason he had to cancel was because of these meetings. And so these meetings that were like about what he was talking about, the big deal, like this was so important that he had to postpone being on Wrestling Observer Radio. And he's not doing that, because this was going to be like a love fest. They won all the Observer Awards. This was going to be like crowning him King Tony. He's not missing an opportunity for that. So yeah, that was huge. But yeah, you're right. Like, but you know what? Like, I think he knows his audience, and he knows that when he promises things like that, people will tune in, because he almost always delivers. Like 2 weeks ago, they did a really good number, and it was because they had promised something. I can't remember what it was, what it ended up being, but there was something they had promised, and he delivered, right?
Yeah.
So, and then now, yeah, Buddy Matthews. Apparently, Swerve Scott was backstage last night, as well as Jonathan Gresham. But I don't know if they were just negotiating, maybe, or maybe they were signed and he didn't just want to use them yet. Like, they got a lot going on, and pay-per-view is like in a week and a half. So I just you see, they're going to be doing Double or Nothing in Vegas. So I'm hoping to go.
Nice.
Yeah, some family stuff may prevent me from going, but I am going to WrestleMania.
Awesome.
Yeah, I got I had someone at WWE took care of me and got me tickets. So we're driving down, me and my wife and 2 daughters. And it's going to be their first WrestleMania, my second. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah. Get to see Stone Cold, hopefully, coming back. First match in 19 years.
Is he actually coming back?
That's what I hear.
I'm afraid for him to come back.
Well, you know what? Kevin Owens, he'll be safe.
Kevin Owens will take care of him, right?
Yeah.
And it's not like they're going to put him in there with Goldberg.
No. Yeah. So you're still you're still following MMA, or are you just like wrestling now?
You know what? I follow MMA. I probably, to be honest with you, the whole pandemic came.
Yeah.
At a time where I think I was starting to get burnt out by MMA.
Yeah. Okay. Was it just doing the show, or was it just in general too much?
Just in general, like I'm trying to put my mindset back where I was in March 2020, where when they said, "Hey, we're not letting anyone in the building, so your show's going to be on hiatus until further notice."
Wow.
And it was almost a relief for me, because I was finding like just the topics to talk about were the same. Like when there wasn't a big news week, when Conor McGregor didn't attack a bus.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about?
Yeah, it's
we talk about judging again, or
Joe Rogan said something.
Champ in a year. Who's going?
Joe Rogan said something stupid on his podcast.
Yeah,
let's talk about that. Yeah.
So,
I do the weekly show, and I know what you're talking about, because I mean, some weeks, like we review last week's show. We preview next week's show. We talk about fights that have been made. We have a segment that's called "We Got to Talk About," and it's usually like somebody did something stupid that week, and we talk about it. Like Paulo Costa's getting hair plants and needs a year off. Like stuff like that. And then it's like, then it's over, and it's like, okay, so, and then we saw our numbers were going down and down and down, and it's like, so we're actually, this is kind of a scoop. We're going to change it up starting next week, our podcast. So we're going to pick like one big item. We're going to kick off the show with that. So we got to try to find something every week. And there's usually something. And then we'll do like a quick review of the show. It's not going to be like every single fight, like, John Flanagan and Sean Smack had this fight at flyweight that took place at 4:00 in the afternoon, and this fight was great. It's like, no, it's just like, we'll talk about the main event. We might talk about the co-main. If a big name was fighting on the undercard, we'll talk about that. But other than that, it'll just be, here's the results.
You know what I even have to tell you is like, when they got rid of TSN, And then I put that message on my Twitter, just thanking everyone who listened to the weigh-in and all that. I was surprised by the outpouring of, private messages and everything. People saying, you got to start a podcast. You got to start a podcast. And I was looking at it like, but there's so many good podcasts out there already. And that, would it be worth my time? Do I want to do this? And I remember thinking, well, what did I always want to do? And one of the things I always wanted to do was to focus on hyper specific parts of the fight game.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, doing a deep dive on why Bellator was using the curved gloves.
Oh, okay.
Rather than the straight finger gloves. Let's do a whole deep dive on that, because I always looked at podcasts, because I'm an old school radio broadcaster.
Mm-hmm.
And radio is always like current events, up to date, blah, blah, blah. But podcasts, I always feel like it's something that you can listen to like a week after it was posted, a year after it was posted. Mm-hmm. So I thought if we hyper focus on something, and I started doing some research on it and all that, but then work started getting busy again, and then life happened. And then, like I said, my bread and butter is advertising. And, I have a few freelance things I do, and it's just like life got in the way. And then I remember telling myself, I'm going to push this to the side and then I'll come back to it. And then I'm at the point now where I don't have the time or the effort. And then I see stuff like you're doing, and I'm like, I would rather just watch what you're doing.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you.
I'd rather just watch what other people are doing and who have the passion for this. And I think that's the number one thing is, I think I lost my passion for hosting a show about fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I like being quote unquote just a fan again.
That's cool. Yeah. I totally get it.
Yeah. I don't want to have to order every pay-per-view.
When they had that one show. They had last October, there was 2 weeks in a row where there was the one show in Abu Dhabi that was free in the States, but we had to pay for it. And then the following week they had a show in Vegas, and it was also a pay-per-view. So it was 2 pay-per-views in a week. And then AEW had a show a week later. So it was 3 pay-per-views in a row. And it's like, damn, that's like $200. Yeah. And and it's like, I'm not like, I get paid a little bit for the podcast, but it wasn't enough to pay for these pay-per-views. I'll tell you that.
No. And then you have like, I'm glad I wasn't around where I had to start covering Jake Paul.
Oh, well, I don't pay him any attention at all. Like, I don't have to cover him. I could, I just decide not to. But I want to say the stuff you're talking about is interesting. And you know what? Like, if you ever do, get that itch again, and you think you want to try something like that, hit me up, because I put the graphic there, patreon.com/FightGameMedia. That's the kind of stuff that Garrett, who runs that site, eats up. So, and you could take, like 2 months to do it and then just post it. And then we've got the video channel, we've got the audio and written as well. Do you follow boxing at all?
I do follow boxing, but not like, not as religiously as I follow.
Wrestling, obviously.
Wrestling and MMA.
Because there's a guy who writes for our site called Robert Silva, and he also does a podcast on our free feed. This guy, he is so entertaining. He's like, when you listen to him, he sounds like Stephen A. Smith. And he's just like that kind of like just outlandish personality. And he's a great writer as well. And he puts up regular articles on Fight Game Media. He does these series like the top 50 boxers of all time, the top 20 knockouts of all time. And he goes into them. Like, every article is like 500 words on, like the number 11 knockout in history, so he's like, this guy he's older than me. I think he's like 52, and he lives in Brooklyn, and he's been watching boxing since, Muhammad Ali was in his prime. So he knows everything. And this guy's amazing. So like, that's the kind of guys that Garrett found to work. Ryan Frederick is my co-host on In the Clinch, and he's the guy you see his tweets on ESPN every week, or TSN. At Ryan Frederick, he's got the round scores. And there was one time, and we clipped it and put it in our show, when Michael Bisping was talking about, so-and-so had he thought that it was 1919 after 2, and then Ryan Frederick has it 2018, and then Bisping says, well, if Ryan Frederick thinks that that guy won those 2 rounds, who am I to argue with him? And so
Actually, Paul, I
and,
remember seeing your tweet pop up
oh, I'm
there.
on there a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think, now I don't know this for sure, but I have a pretty good idea. I think Ryan somehow pulled some strings and got my tweets on there because, like, I mean, I just hashtag it, and like a million people do. And like for some reason they put my tweets on there. So it's cool. Like I get reached out. Sometimes I get a DM from somebody I went to school with and I haven't seen in 30 years. And he's like, I saw your tweet on ESPN. And is that you? And it's like, well, that's my face, because they show my face like in my Twitter profile. So it's kind of cool. I had my grandson over a couple weeks ago and we were watching and I'm tweeting as I'm watching. And he says, Papa, your face is on this TV. I want to be on TV too. And I'm like, well, work hard, boy, and know the right people, and maybe you'll get on there.
You know
Someday.
what's funny about that is it's just a lot smaller of the scale. But back in my Hot 103 days, kids used to love the station Hot 103.
Yeah.
And I know when my niece was younger, she thought it was really cool that her uncle was on Hot 103 and I was on these videos and stuff. And then as she grew older, and then I was not, I was now doing like TSN stuff, so I wasn't on the top 40 radio station. But at this point, my nephew was like maybe 5 or 6, and I remember it clearly. We were just sitting around the dinner table eating. And my nephew looks at me and he's like, you know what? I asked my friends if they know who Big Marv is. And they said, no, they don't know you. Nobody knows you.
Oh.
I wasn't sitting there saying, hey, I'm pretty famous, kids. I was just eating silently.
Wow. That's cold, man. Everybody knows Big Marv. Everybody in Winnipeg, anyways. Okay,
they do now because I'm on your show.
Well, yeah, right. I think you had more listeners than I have viewers, but we'll say. So, anyways, we're gonna wrap this up soon. But I had people probably watching behind you and like, oh, what's he got behind there? What's he got behind there? So, yeah, what you got a lot of collectibles.
This is actually see, before we built this house, I had a whole basement. Now everything is shoved into this one bedroom. So I'll give you like this is just
tell me about it. Look, have a look at this. Like this is what I'm dealing with here. Like it's all over the place.
So these are just a few of the items there. I've got I've got like
the crow. I see. Yeah.
Where I'm doing.
Yeah. I'll kind of do the play-by-play.
Crow, Star
X-Men.
Wars, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I'll turn this around now. Again, pardon the mess.
No.
But I have Transformers and He-Man and G.I. Joe, superheroes. And I guess the thing that might interest your audience more is probably the old wrestling shelf with the all the different eras.
Wow.
There. And
wow. See, I got a few behind me,
belts.
but nothing like what you got there.
So
wow. So those what are I had a guy on, you might want to check it out sometime. Chris DiPetrillo. He works for a place called Figures Toy Wrestling.
Oh wow.
And they do independent wrestling figures. So, it'll be a lot of times it'll be a guy's first wrestling figure ever, so that's kind of cool. And his stuff it's really good. So they don't get the WWE guys, although sometimes they get guys that are in WWE. And by the time they get the figure out, like they weren't in WWE when he signed them, but by the time he releases the figure, they're there. So those ones end up usually selling really well. Yeah.
You know what's funny is how popular collecting is amongst wrestlers now. You've got All Ego from
Ethan Page.
AEW. He does his toy hunts with all the guys from AEW on YouTube. I mean, it really started with Zack Ryder, Matt Cardona doing like their toy things, but it's just funny to see how many wrestlers are collectors,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and now with these NFTs, I think that's going to create a whole new thing because my co-host Ryan, he was telling me on our podcast this week, he just got into this and I didn't really understand it, but it's almost like, so the UFC has these trading card NFTs, and you basically you buy like a pack of virtual trading cards, and you might get like a Kamaru Usman, and there's
Mhm.
like 75 Kamaru Usman, so those ones are like super valuable. But then you get like the lesser known guys. So if you know that a guy's like a super prospect, you might hang on to it. He got a Khamzat Chimaev. He ended up selling it for $200.
Wow.
Yeah, and he had paid 50 for the pack. So then he had like a Terrence McKinney, and he sold it for $8. So it's like and you just kind of, so you play that game, that investment game, and if you get in on it early, you can make a little bit of money. So it's kind of like the whole trading card craze, from like when we were
Yeah.
kids.
And what's weird? It sounds neat to me,
Yeah,
but
but
I'm old
scary
school.
as hell.
I'm in my 40s, so
Yeah.
as you can see,
Mhm.
I like tangible things that I can
Yes.
hold.
Yes. Oh, I'm exactly the same. Like I hear this and it sounds like super cool, and then I'm like, well, what do you get? And he's like, well, you got this virtual. Well, no, not virtual. What do I actually get? Like in my hands, because I've got stuff, like I got a box right here of cards. We opened them up. Actually, I keep referring to things I did because my brain automatically goes to plugs. But we had on Wrestling Observer, my friend Tom Promise Thomas, he does a show where it's like about collectibles. And we did a show where we open wrestling trading cards. I had these packs of cards, WWF cards from 1993. I had like a Diesel rookie card. And apparently these cards are worth money. And they were just sitting in my desk or whatever. And it's like you go on Beckett's and like $25 for this one. I had a Razor Ramon that was worth 15. And I had a Lunja Blaze and all this. And then there's these special ones, which I didn't have any of, but that were worth like a lot. So, and so I mean, I guess they could probably try to sell them, but I'm lazy. But I'm like you, like I like having stuff. So I mean, I collect. I have so many books. I mean, I have those figures set up there, and everyone asks, "Oh, why'd you pick those guys?" And it's like, well, my grandson went into my box of collectibles and pulled those out, so that's why they're there. And the other stuff is kind of strategically placed. Like I got the WrestleMania chair there because it's WrestleMania season, and I have a Blues Brothers poster just off to the side. But when I had Cole Cabana on my show, I moved it over because he's like from Chicago, and I knew he'd appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, and then of course the Jets, and that thing there from the Heritage Classic. I'm sure you were there. Were you there?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Huh. And I
you
got
know what that that happened. The Heritage Classic happened kind of around the time going dark on you here, but around the time of the passing of my mother. So
oh no. Oh,
so it was
okay.
one of those things where
Yeah, just a bad time.
Yeah, it wasn't a great time.
And you're like, I know family is really big for you. So, like, yeah, it was
Filipino,
probably like,
man.
yeah, that's probably like a 2-week thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, my heart, and you've posted a few things, and, I can feel it, but,
yeah, because I know you've posted a few things, and like,
yep.
whenever you almost feel like a brother in arms when
Yep.
you hear about someone else losing their mother and stuff. So
yeah, in the last, like, I lost my mom and my dad, and then my stepdad, all within like 3 years, and they're young.
it's rough.
Like, yeah, like they're all, my mom was 62, my dad was 60, and my stepdad was 65. But yeah,
Too young.
all way, way, way too young. Yeah. Actually, it might have been 67, but still too young. He was done. Like as soon as my mom died, like my stepdad, like it was like the clock started running down. Like, we all knew he wasn't going to last long.
Yeah.
So, at least he's not sick anymore, and that's good. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And yeah. So, before we go, I got to ask you something.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a winter like this?
I'm sorry. Have I ever seen what?
Have you ever seen a winter like this?
No. And it's so strange in that just last night, I feel like all Winnipeggers are just talking about the winter this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
But last night, my wife and I were talking about how in 2013 we were living in our old house and we didn't have a snowblower yet.
So I don't have a snowblower still.
Shoveling, and I remember pushing this stuff up. And I don't know why, but I always felt like, wasn't that winter worse? But I don't think we had as much snow. Like, for instance, just last week, I think I had to clear my driveway 3 times.
So
Like,
I have like the snow in my driveway, and I've got a big driveway, is higher than my head.
yeah,
And I'm having to like shovel over it. And finally, like it was too high. So I made a second pile. And so now my driveway is about 4 feet narrower because
yeah,
I've got two piles of snow. And so today, and this is like, so when I messaged you earlier today and I said, okay, we're gonna do this show. And then I had to go for lunch. And I get out there because I was gonna go drive and pick up lunch. And I got 3 foot snowbank, 10 foot long at the end of my driveway because the snow clears came and cleared our street. But then the guys that are supposed to come and move that snow hadn't got there yet. And I don't know when they're going to get there. They haven't got here yet. So
oh
I had to
boy,
clear it myself. So I spent like a good hour out there, getting rid of that 3 foot bank of snow because my daughter's in a wheelchair. And, if
yeah.
the school bus gets here and that's there, I can't get her in the house. So yeah, it was tough. But I mean, first world problems, when you look
It's
at what's
true.
going on in the Ukraine and everything. I mean, I'm just happy that,
Yeah,
they're
things
not
going on in
dropping.
Ukraine,
Yeah.
Chinese airplanes over Taiwan.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little bit
Oh,
scared right now.
yeah, me too, me too. And and then yeah, COVID is just seems like, oh, let's bring back COVID.
It,
Forget about the wars. We'll deal with COVID.
is it me, or
Yeah,
is it just like, hey, everyone's tired of COVID, so it's gone?
yeah,
I don't, I
kind
don't
of,
think it's
yeah.
gone.
Well, I mean, it'll never be gone. That's the thing. So the Spanish flu in like 1919, like it never actually went away. It
No,
just kind of stopped killing people as much as it was. So the flu that we have now that we get every season, it's the same flu they had in 1919. So
yeah,
COVID is still going to be around in 100 years. It's just not going to be as deadly
we're just
because
gonna
we
have
have a
to get a
vaccine.
booster every year.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's, I mean, just like the flu, right? And some people won't get it and some people are going to die. Like, I mean, that's it. Like,
Yeah,
it sucks, but it's your choice. So, but what a way to like wrap this baby up.
yeah.
But
Family deaths, terrible winter,
yeah,
and COVID.
but you know what? We had like 28 minutes of like super positive stuff. So
It's
yeah,
true.
I mean, hey,
One thing I wanted to touch on before
sure,
we
yeah,
all take
good
off,
time.
and it's so divisive where sometimes it seems like either you like AEW and you
Okay.
hate WWE, or you like WWE and you hate AEW. I always look at it because I watch both shows.
Right. Yep.
I'm like, I think they could use a little bit of what each other brings. Like
Absolutely.
WWE could use a little more and a little more, hey, that's exciting.
Hmm.
And AEW could use a little more psychology. Am I wrong there?
I
Like,
no, I agree. Like, I mean, put it this way. I don't know if you watched Dynamite last night, but they had that bit where Buddy Matthews debuted, right?
yeah,
And so the Aleister Black or Malachi Black, he's got the shovel and he's gonna decapitate Penta.
yeah,
And then the lights go out and Buddy Matthews shows up. And oh wow, he's gonna save him. But no, he turns on Pac and blah blah blah. But he stopped the attack.
yeah,
Like, so if he was gonna turn on him anyways, why did he stop the attack? Like, it makes no sense.
no,
And there's a lot of stuff like that. So I host an AW podcast, and I think part of the reason people like listening to it is because we're not cheerleaders. Like, we will sit there and we will tell people, okay, this was great. The MJF promo, that is one of the best promos I've ever seen in my life. Like, and I would
that
not stop. Like,
that was great. And
yeah,
then having CM Punk come out, not to music,
yes, yes,
just himself,
yeah.
with that look on his face, like, is that true? Like,
Did you
sunk in.
see?
I
Did
was
you
like
see?
believing
Like,
this stuff.
did you see what's come out today? Someone dug up the Facebook post that MJF did in 2015 that basically tells all this stuff.
Really?
Now put it this way. I'm not naive enough to think that they might not have backdone this and he might have put this up, like last week and somehow backdated it. Or he actually did it and he's pulling from his own life. Either way, it's freaking great.
Really?
And yeah. And so now I think what's going to happen is Punk's going to come out next week and he's going to say, I don't believe you. You're full of crap. You do this stuff all the time. And then this stuff, they're going to show it on TV and it's going to say, no, look, this is what I posted in 2015. And now Punk is, oh man, like I did let him down. I did let the fans down. And now he's doubting himself. And then MJF can be an even bigger dick, down the road. So it's so brilliant. But you're right. And then WWE, like Raw this week was really good. Most weeks it's not, but this week it was. So
It had a flow to it.
Yeah, we have a show on our network that I guest on sometimes called The Wrap. And they go over WWE in detail, and they're more positive than most people you see on WWE. So if you ever got time, check it out. It's free. It's on the Fight Game Media feed. And two hosts, they're both African American, and you don't often hear those kind of voices on podcasts, which I really like. And I enjoy, like, when I go on the show with them, it's usually about once a month. It's my favorite show I do all the time. I like it more than this. I like it more than my own shows. I like it more than when I do Wrestling Observer sometimes. Like, it's so much fun. These two are just hilarious. Scott Young he's like 35 and he's a basketball fan and kind of into hip hop, and he makes jokes, and it's great. And Keila Catch, it's not only African American, but she's female. And so she's got a completely different perspective than me, and I appreciate that. So, yeah. So there we go. We end positively.
There we go.
Yeah.
And on topic.
Yeah. So I want to thank you, Marv, for coming on, and hopefully we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you for coming on. I know you were supposed to come on a little while ago. You had some health stuff, so I'm glad you could make time for me now.
Yeah, you tried to get me on right when I got COVID.
Hey, well, you know what? It's funny, and I got a cold right now, and so I feel you. Because I was saying to you, like, oh, you tested positive, big deal. And you're like, no, man, dude, I'm sick.
I could barely talk.
Yeah. And that's what I was like a couple days ago. So if we had scheduled this for Monday, I probably would have rescheduled, but I'm feeling better today. So for Big Marv, I've been Grandpa Dez, and this has been Cup of